name is NORDINA binti Nordin. My metric number is 2021105139. Today, I would like to present about the introduction on bicameral system. One of the government organs that given power to make law is the legislative body. There are two types of legislature, namely unicameral and bicameral. Unicameral means one chamber or single house legislative system, while bicameral is a legislative system that consists of two houses. Two houses in Malaysia are upper house and lower house, and both are involved in making legislation. Both houses has differences in terms of age and title. The first one is age. The eligible age in lower house is 18 years old, while for the upper house is 30 years old. Other than that, there are also difference in title. The title used for upper house is senator, while for the lower house, the title for the member is Yang Berhormat. Even though there are differences between these two houses, it still have similarity in terms of function, which is both houses play a role to enact the law.
Here are the few countries that practice bicameral system of legislature. The first country is United Kingdom. The upper house of United Kingdom is House of Commons. However, the lower house of United Kingdom is House of Lords. Second, Italy. The upper house of Italy is Senate of Republic, and the lower house of Italy is Chamber of Deputies. Third, France. The upper house of France is Senate, and the lower house of France is National Assembly. Fourth, Egypt. The upper house of Egypt is Senate, and the lower house of Egypt is House of Representatives. Fifth, we have India. The upper house of India is Rajya Sabha, and the lower house of India is Lok Sabha. Sixth, Thailand. The upper house of Thailand is Senate, and the lower house of Thailand is House of Representatives. Next, Indonesia. The upper house of Indonesia is Regional Representative Council, DPD. However, the lower house of Indonesia is People's Representative Council, DPR. 8. Japan. The upper house of Japan is House of Councillor, and the lower house of Japan is House of Representative. 9. We have Morocco. The upper house of Morocco is House of Councillor, and the lower house of Morocco is House of Representative. Last but not least, we have Mexico. The upper house of Mexico is Senate, and the lower house of Mexico is Chamber of Deputies.
The Malaysian Parliament is the country's national legislature based on the Westminster system, and it is an essential entity in a democratic society and country. It uses a bicameral system as well. It consists of three components, which is the first one is Yang di-Pertuan Agong (YDPA). Only ceremonial and religious functions are performed by the YDPA, such as starting legislative sessions and delivering the royal address to a joint sitting of both houses detailing government policy. The second one is Dewan Negara or Senate, Malaysia upper chamber of parliament consisting of 70 senators, 26 of whom are elected by state legislative assemblies, with 2 senators representing each state and 44 of whom are appointed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, which is the king, with 4 senators representing federal territories. The third one is House of Representatives or Dewan Rakyat. It is the lower house of Malaysia bicameral of parliament. It is a 222 members directly elected body known as the members of parliament. First past the post voting, it used to elect members with 1 members from each federal constituency. Members keep their seats until the Dewan Rakyat is dissolved, which happened 5 years following an election. The constitutional monarch and head of state of Malaysia is the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, also known as the supreme head of the federation, paramount ruler or king of Malaysia. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong is elected by the Conference of Rulers, which consists of the 9 rulers of the Malay states, and have election rotate between them, making Malaysia one of the few elective monarchy in the world.
I will now be explaining about the appointment of YDPA. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong is legally chosen to a 5-year term and by from among the 9 rulers of Malay states, which historical royal rulers who make up the Conference of Rulers Majlis Raja-Raja. The Conference of Rulers elects the new Yang di-Pertuan Agong as if the preceding term had ended in the case of a vacancy in the office due to death, resignation, or deposition by a majority vote of the rulers. In 1957, when the Federation of Malaya gained independence, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong was chosen in a sequence based on each ruler's seniority measured by length of rule. According to YDPA criteria, only a royal ruler can be chosen and only royal ruler can vote. A ruler is not eligible for election as Yang di-Pertuan Agong is if he is a minor, has informed if the keeper of the ruler seal that he does not wish to be elected, or if the Conference of Ruler decides by secret ballot that the ruler is unsuitable to exercise the function of the YDPA due to infirmity of mind or body, or for any other reason. At least 5 members of the conference must vote in favor of the resolution.
Termination means the act of ending something. According to Malaysian constitution, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is chosen for a 5-year term by the Conference of Rulers. However, he can resign at any time by writing to the Conference of Rulers or be removed from office by the Conference of Rulers, which is the king from all states. For example, the Malaysian constitution allows the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to resign by making his removal valid, but he must first do a number of things that are already subject to laws allowing abduction and processes like the YDPA. We have to serve on the throne for 5 years, but he can resign before that time is up. If our YDPA opts for that option, all they have to do is write a letter of resignation to the Conference of Rulers. The issue of termination in Malaysia is Sultan Muhammad V abdicated in an unprecedented move. According to Article 32(3) of the Federal Constitution, Sultan Muhammad V Kelantan resigned as the 15th Agong or Supreme King of the Federation on Sunday, January 6. The reason for his abrupt resignation has become the buzz of the town. The placement was officially announced to His Majesty the rulers through a letter submitted to the Conference of Rulers Secretary.
I will now be explaining about the function of YDPA in the Parliament. Firstly, discretionary power. The appointment of Prime Minister is one of the first functions granted to YDPA. The YDPA has discretionary power over the appointment of a Prime Minister, the taking away of permission to a request for a dissolution of Parliament, and the work orders of a meeting of the Conference of Rulers solely concerned with the privilege, position, honorary and basic right of their Royal Highness, as well as any action taken at such a conference. Nevertheless, this is not permanent, whereas if an election is held and the nominal party wins, a representative from the party must be elected as Prime Minister. Only when there is a majority government or a lost majority because of death, exposition, retirement or dismissal of a member of a parliament may this function be used. The issue is the YDPA has the authority to dismiss the parliament. The YDPA has a tradition of approving the Prime Minister request for dissolution. However, he is not obligated by it. For example, at the state level, request for a dissolution was refused to a defeated Chief Minister in Kelantan 1977 and to a Chief Minister in Sabah 1944 because a state election had just been held a few weeks earlier. Aside from that, YDPA might also schedule an appointment of the Conference of Rulers under Article 40. The YDPA may demand a meeting of the Conference of Rulers at his judgment if the conference is primarily to discuss the Conference of Rulers' rights, status, awards and human dignity. Secondly, non-discretionary power. Article 41 shows the provision on the constitutional role of the YDPA, which in the exercise of his function under this Constitution of Federal Law, Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall be act in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet or Minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet, except as otherwise provided by this Constitution. Article 41A improve the YDPA abilities to function of the guidance of the certain institutions while practicing his powers under this Constitution or federal law, where the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is to comply with on or after having a considered advice. The YDPA humbly accept and act in accordance with such guidance. The issue is proclamation of emergency. The YDPA is granted the authority to act on his own. If these clauses are taken literally, the country appears to be controlled by an absolute monarch. However, there are times when YDPA is unable to operate independently and must rely on cabinet guidance. For example, it is shown in the case of Teh Cheng Po V, which is the public prosecutor, where the YDPA's perception of fulfillment is actually a reference to the cabinet collective opinion or satisfaction, or the opinion or satisfaction of a specific minister to whom the cabinet has assigned their right to give advice, is one of the YDPA non-discretionary power, as it must be performed in collaboration with the Conference of the Rulers.
Kemudian, istiadat dizahirkan dengan alat-alat kebesaran diraja, dibawa masuk bersama senaskah Al-Quranul Karim, keris kerajaan dan watikah pertama.
Parlimen Persekutuan merupakan badan perundangan tertinggi yang titah diraja turut menggariskan dasar-dasar kerajaan.
Nobat Diraja Negeri Kedah Darul Aman. Keberangkatan masuk Sri Paduka Baginda berdua.
Ampun tuanku, beribu ampun sembah.
Ikuti persembahan keris kebesaran. Ikrar akan memerintah dengan adil dan saksama.
Agama Islam, hak istimewa, kedudukan, kemuliaan atau kebesaran Raja-Raja Melayu dan yang berkaitan dengannya.
Dev dipersilakan berdiri.
Ibni Almarhum Sultan Mahmud Al-Muktafi Billah Shah.
Daulat tuanku.
Daulat tuanku.
Daulat tuanku.
Daulat tuanku.
Daulat tuanku.
Daulat tuanku.
Dewan Negara or Upper House. The Senate consists of 70 senators. The membership of the Senate is made up by two categories: 26 members elected by the State Legislative Assembly to represent 13 states, each state represented by 2 members. Another 44 members appointed by His Majesty the King on the advice of the Prime Minister, including 2 members from the Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur and 1 member each from the Federal Territory of Labuan dan Putrajaya. To be eligible as a member, a person must be a Malaysian citizen, be not less than 30 years old, be of sound mind, and not be an undischarged background. The tenure of office is a 3-year term for a maximum of 2 terms, applicable to both federal and state appointment. Membership of the Upper House or Dewan Negara. Senators can only be reappointed once, either consecutively or non-consecutively, for a period of 3 years. 2 senators are elected by each state of 13 state legislatures. The King appoints another 40 senators regardless of their states on the suggestion of the Prime Minister. Senators appointed by the federal government must have rendered distinguished public service. Senators must also be members of the Senate for at least 3 years and not be affected by the dissolution of Parliament. Senators have the authority to propose law and implement policy that they will debate in Parliament. For example, YB Sadiq introduced an internship bill in the Parliament to raise that allowance from 300 to 500. The policy must receive 2 out of 3 votes in Parliament before being made public. Regarding issues that may be related to the membership of Upper House is the Speaker of the Senate, Tan Sri Rakyat was appointed as the new chairman of the Special Committee on Corruption, JKMR. Also appointed were 6 new members comprising 4 senators and 2 MPs. The letter of appointment was presented by the Prime Minister, Tan Sri Yassin, at a brief ceremony at the Parliament building.
Moving on to the next part, which is the appointment. In Federal Constitution, the Upper House consists of elected and appointed members as 2 members of each state, 2 members of the Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur, 1 member of the Federal Territory of Labuan, 1 member of the Federal Territory of Putrajaya, and 40 members will be appointed by Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The members that will be appointed by Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall be person who in his opinion have rendered distinguished public service or have achieved distinction in their professions, industry, commerce, social service, or representative of social minorities. Before the members taking seat in the Upper House, every member must take prescribed oath before the President of the Senate. From the oath, the members swear that they will do their duty faithfully to the best of their ability. For example, actor Jin Shamsuddin was appointed as a senator and he became the first person in entertainment industry to hold the title. He was appointed because the contribution and services that he gave in the entertainment industry. Among the issues that can be linked with the appointment is Ras Adi Barazi, appointed as a senator that represents persons with disabilities in the parliament. She wants to contribute to the people, especially among the people with disabilities. This really shows that the existence of these people will bring everyone's voice through the right platform. The next part is the termination. The term of office of the Senate shall be 3 years and shall not be affected by a dissolution of Parliament and shall not hold office for more than 2 terms. A person also disqualified for being a member of the Senate if he is and has been found or declared to be unsound mind, declared as bankrupt, holds an office of profit, or voluntarily acquired citizenship or exercise right of citizenship in any other country. A senator can resign from being a member of the House by writing a letter to the Yang di-Pertua Dewan Negara. For example, Wan Ahmad Farid Wan Saleh was once a senator but he decided to resign from being a senator. It is because he had political issues and made him took an action to resign.
Now, I will talk about Dewan Rakyat. Dewan Rakyat has been divided into 4, which is membership, appointment, termination, and also function. Now, let's look at the first one, which is membership. Members of Parliament are referred to as Ahli Dewan Rakyat in Malay. The Speaker is the presiding officer of the Dewan Rakyat and is elected by the MPs at the commencement of each Parliament or when the position becomes vacant. The Dewan Rakyat has 222 elected members and each Dewan Rakyat members function for a maximum of 5 years. A member of Dewan Rakyat must be at least 21 years old of age and must not concurrently be a member of Dewan Negara. The presiding officer of Dewan Rakyat is the speaker who is elected at the beginning of each parliament or after the vacation of the post by the MPs. 2 deputy speakers are also elected, and one of them sits in the place of the speaker when he is absent. Next, we will look on at the appointment. The appointment of Dewan Rakyat members is by using electoral system. The House of Representatives is composed according to Article 46 of the Malaysian Federal Constitution, which shall consist of 180 elected members. The members of Parliament make up the executive government, which includes the Prime Minister and his cabinet, with the bulk of them belonging to the Dewan Rakyat. However, following to a general election or the resignation or death of a Prime Minister, the King selects the Prime Minister, who is the head of government but is constitutionally subordinate to him. Okay, now let's look at termination. If a person is found or determined to be of unsound mind or has been declared bankrupt, he is ineligible to serve in either House of Parliament. Next, it will also consider they were terminated if they failed to lodge any return of election costs required by law within the time. Moreover, if the person has been convicted of an offence by a court of law in the Federation, it will also be terminated from the Dewan Rakyat immediately. A person who commit offences in connection with election may be disqualified for membership in either House of Parliament for periods specified by federal law, and any person who has been convicted of such an offence or has been proven guilty of an act constituting such as an offence in proceeding relating to an election shall be disqualified accordingly for the period specified. Now, last but not least, it is function. The Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negara make up the Bicameral Parliament, with the YDPA Agong as the third member. The Parliament refers to the Dewan Rakyat, which has 3 basic functions, which is the first one is to represent the electorate, the second one is to enacting laws, and lastly is to serve and check the balance of on government through hearings, debates, and oversight procedures. A proposed act of law begins with the preparation of a first draft by the government minister, or actually the ministry with the assistance that attorney department. Usually the cabinet is the one who will debate the document, and the document it was known as the bill. The bill is distributed. It will be distributed to all MPs, and if it is agreed, it will bring up to the Parliament itself to make sure that the law can be enacted into the country. Lastly, I will talk about the issue regarding lower house. The nature of parliamentary debates in Malaysia's Dewan Rakyat on poverty concern. It focuses on the untold story of poverty in Malaysia that is buried in the Dewan Rakyat Hansard using qualitatively research technique. However, qualitatively analysing poverty concern can be and susceptible to debate. Despite Malaysia's accomplishment in eradicating poverty, poverty issues have always been a topic of discussion in practically every Dewan Rakyat session. Debating about poverty concern is the nature of parliamentary debate in Malaysia's Dewan Rakyat.
Adalah dewan tertinggi di Malaysia, dan kita ada dua dewan lah bawah Parlimen Malaysia, iaitu Dewan Rakyat dan juga Dewan Negara. So Dewan Rakyat adalah kira lower house dan Dewan Negara adalah upper house. So kita dapat nampak bahawa the upper house is the final decision maker lah, di mana Dewan Rakyat akan membincangkan atau mendebatkan satu polisi, dan kalau katakan polisi tersebut adalah berjaya, and it will be passed to the Dewan Negara untuk mendapatkan persetujuan oleh ahli-ahli Dewan Negara sebelum mendapat persetujuan dari Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Dewan Negara atau nama lainnya adalah Senate. Kalau nama pun Senate, maka orang dalam Dewan Negara namanya Senator. Ada 70 ahli Dewan Negara. Cara pemilihan ada dua. Satu adalah dari segi pemilihan oleh negeri. Maka orang-orang dari setiap negeri mempunyai allocation mereka sendiri. Dan dari wilayah-wilayah persekutuan pun ada wakil-wakil sendiri. Dari setiap negeri ada 2 orang wakil. Dari wilayah persekutuan Kuala Lumpur ada 2 orang wakil dan ada 1 wakil dari Putrajaya dan Labuan. Manakala majoriti pemilihan adalah dipilih oleh Perdana Menteri, dan Perdana Menteri akan menasihati Yang di-Pertuan Agong untuk melantik senator-senator yang mewakili pihak persekutuan lah. Antara fungsi penting Dewan Negara adalah untuk menjadi check and balance kepada Dewan Rakyat. Kerana apa? Kalau saya sebagai parti majoriti atau saya memegang kuasa di Dewan Rakyat, saya mempunyai majoriti, maka saya dapat meletakkan polisi-polisi yang saya rasa penting untuk kerajaan saya. Tapi kalau tak ada check and balance, kalau tak ada orang untuk pastikan okey, adakah polisi ini adalah polisi yang bagus? Adakah polisi ini satu polisi yang mungkin mengancam keselamatan atau mengancam hak-hak yang sedia ada untuk kerajaan negeri? So, itu adalah satu perkara yang kita perlu consider. Kerajaan negeri mereka ada representasi dalam Dewan Negara supaya suara negeri-negeri mereka mampu menyuarakan pendapat mereka melalui fungsi Dewan Negara. Kedua adalah fungsi dari segi minoriti-minoriti yang ada. Contohnya warga-warga OKU atau komuniti OKU adalah diwakilkan melalui seorang senator yang mewakili komuniti OKU, dan ada senator-senator lain yang memberikan suara dan feedback dari segi perbincangan di Dewan Negara. Antara isu dengan Dewan Negara adalah kerana ramai senator dipilih oleh kerajaan persekutuan. So maksudnya kalau katakan majoriti senator dipilih oleh kerajaan persekutuan, maka apa point of check and balance, kan? Kalau kerajaan persekutuan sendiri dah kontrol Dewan Negara, so apa-apa yang di approve atau dipersetujui oleh Dewan Rakyat, mestilah Dewan Negara sokong. So apa yang berlaku pada zaman dahulu adalah Dewan Negara hanya menjadi rubber stamp. Dia apa-apa yang Dewan Negara hantar, dia macam okay, no problem, pak, settle, hantar pada Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Sebagai rakyat Malaysia, pentinglah untuk kita tahu macam mana politik atau bagaimana kerajaan kita berfungsi. Kerana setiap institusi mempunyai peranan yang begitu penting. Kita kenal Dewan Rakyat, kan? Kita memang kenal semua ahli parlimen semua. Tapi berapa ahli Dewan Negara yang kita sendiri kenal? Berapa banyak isu-isu Dewan Negara yang kita sendiri faham, dan kita sebagai rakyat Malaysia patut peka dan patut lebih terlibat.
Conclusion. The legislative branch of government is an important branch for the government since its function is critical in stabilizing our country. The legislative function includes interpreting the law, participating in legislative process, financial function, modifying the constitution and many other things. The government selects the best person or individual to handle and lead the government in order to create a better Malaysia in all aspects.